we'll kick off with Rachel then. Nice to see you.
Hello, no pressure. There's lots of people. I'm Rachel. I work for Harbour Housing in Cornwall, so I'm sure I recognise some names here today. So I'm sure most of you know what Harbour Housing do. And for those that don't, we are a homelessness charity based in Cornwall. So we support people all across Cornwall, primarily with complex needs and who are homeless. So I've worked here for over 12 years now, so I've worked here quite a while, and one of my jobs here in the past was to head up our hospital discharge project, but prior to that I was a support worker, and over the past 12 years I'd say I've supported quite a lot of people with complex needs and who are homeless, who have got a terminal illness and require end of life care. So about 6 years ago, I supported a young man who had end stage COPD. He was a heroin addict. He was also a very lovely person, but he was in active addiction. And he wanted to die at home, and now he called his home our accommodation, which was Cosgarn Hall, and he had lived there for about 2 years, and we really struggled to get him a package of care. So we were told absolutely no way, he can't die at home basically, because that's not his home, that's a supported accommodation. So we really struggled, and we got lots of people involved, and in the end we started a conversation with the hospice, with St Austell Hospice, to see how we could work together in supporting people at the end of their life basically. So the hospice found some funding, and we worked with St Austell Healthcare and came up with our end of life project, which is basically where people with complex needs are our clients, or people can be referred in who are facing homelessness, can be supported through their end of life within their accommodation with us. So we've had about 6 people go through that service at the moment, and have been supported to die comfortably, surrounded by people that they know and people that they trust, so that's kind of a nutshell of our end of life project. As I said, I've been here a long time. Over that time I've seen some really horrific cases. I had a gentleman who was referred into our service who had end-stage skin cancer, and he was discharged from hospital to a travel lodge in a hospital gown still, with no support whatsoever. So he accessed our end of life project. We actually got him into the accommodation within a couple of hours of receiving the referral, but without that it could have been very complex, and he could have died at the travel lodge. Some of the not issues, but some of the challenges faces when people with complex needs go into a hospice environment, if they're in active addiction, so if they're using drugs or using alcohol and drinking alcohol, it could be quite disruptive for both the hospice and the person going into that environment. So the idea of our end of life project is to be able to support people whilst in active addiction or whilst drinking, to be able to have a very comfortable death at home. I think this is great because there's going to be people who potentially have an understanding of drugs and alcohol, to be able to support people. We had a gentleman who was in the hospital who was an active heroin user, but they hadn't used for some time and they were terminally ill, and the hospital phoned us to tell us that they were considering discharging him because they suspected that he was using heroin on the ward. Without any evidence or anything like that, that was just, he's using heroin because he's a heroin addict. So a drugs worker and myself went up there and tested him, and he wasn't using drugs. But there needs to be some kind of education around, drug users and alcohol users around the end of life. So there we go. Bit of a cheerful thing on 9 o'clock on a Monday morning, isn't it? But so that's where we're at the moment. So I've been really passionate about this for a long time. I don't actually work with clients anymore, but this is something really close to my heart, because having worked with people and really struggled to get any care in place, especially at the end of the life, it's very frustrating, and it's very frustrating for me as a support worker, but also very horrific for the person who, is being told, you're potentially going to die, but that's all right, there's no support where you are at the moment for that. Let's shift you out of your home and put you in a hospice, when, if I was in that situation, I quite probably would have the option, if I wanted to be at home with my family. So how can someone who's using drugs and alcohol not have that same choice as me? There's a lot of stigma around it. So also it's really rewarding bringing people off the streets who are terminally ill, because people who use drugs and alcohol get cancer too. So to be able to support them through that is really rewarding. And as I said, we've had about 6 people come through that service. Now we're actually in quite a good place at the moment, because off the back of that as well, with care packages in general, we really struggle to get packages of care. So now we've got our own care company who provide all the care in-house, which makes it a bit more seamless. So the hospice did initially employ a lady, a nurse, to come and work directly with our clients. And she also provided support and education for our workers, which was really great, around the end of life and what to expect. But so there we go. Thank you.